Hello, Mitra. Welcome to the videocast.
Hello, Jonas. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. We've known each other now for when I think back. I think the first memory I have of you is when I first went to Zen Garden. I don't remember when it was, but maybe 2006 or something. When were you there the first years?
Well, the first years, it was like around 2002 or 3, but I don't think you were not there. You were not there then, so it must have been around 2006 or 7 or so. Yeah.
Okay. So how old were you then when you went there first?
Oh, I hardly remember how old I am now, but let's see. I was something like 29, 27, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, something like that. Those very early years.
Yeah. But how old are you now?
45.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we might maybe we should introduce you. So you are Mitra, and you are a Zen sensei. Is that what you say? Zen teacher, Zen sensei.
Yes. I'm a Zen Buddhist priest and Zen Buddhist teacher, which are not the same thing, but in this case, they happen to live in the same person. Yes.
And I'm not sure if I remember correctly, but I think I read either you said it or wrote somewhere that when you were a young or semi-young child, you read The Cloud of Unknowing, and you had this kind of physical reaction almost, or strong reaction or something. Would you mind telling us what it was?
Well, I was a kind of. Well, I don't know how typical it is. Maybe it is typical. Maybe the world is full of like 11 or 12 years old children who actually secretly read uh, like Catholic mystics, medieval mystics, their writings. But I did that. That was my kind of secret hobby, and I was basically reading everything out I could find, which, of course, in that time was not much because the internet didn't exist simply in that time. And then you go to some like library, and then it's quite relative, like narrow selection that you have there. But I found something, and actually I found my way to the library of the Catholic Church in Helsinki, Finland. So I was really interested in that stuff, and I must say that I don't remember anymore very vividly this incidents with the Cloud of Unknowing, but I remember that I have read it and it made a huge impact on me. There were also some other mystics that really made an impact on me, like Saint Francis, for instance. Yeah, and I became very, very religious kid, I must say. I mean, I was in that time, I was really religious. I mean, now I don't consider myself nearly as religious. I mean, now I'm a priest, but I'm in a priest in tradition that can very well be said that it's not really a religion, but it's more like a way of life, kind of way of training, way of being. But when I was a kid, I was really religious. So I actually wanted to become a nun after reading that stuff. Yeah. So that was they were my first spiritual kind of like some kind of sources or something that I could kind of munch and think and ponder about, that were religious, spiritual in a deep way. And I still think that this Catholic medieval saints, mystics, that they have something very deep to give if you are able to read them kind of with a broad mind.
And then somehow you found the tradition you're in now, the Zen tradition.
Yes, but that was much later. That was much later. So it's, I mean, it's like now when I'm looking at, like, retrospectively, now it's of course easy to see that, okay, cloud of unknowing, it's like has some similarities with Zen practice, especially with koan practice, when the key is that you are actually meditating on something you don't know. uh, uh, and uh, and this cloud of unknowing, it's referring to a state of mind that in Christian meditative practice that you may enter if you are very lucky, when you are very deeply kind of just listening to God. So there are some similarities, but of course, I mean, my life could have taken completely different kind of direction, and I actually became like I started to study classical music, went to the music academy, all that stuff. So it was a long way before I actually found my way to Zen. Yes.
So how did you find Zen?
Well, I found it because I just had to find it, I think. I mean, in that way that uh, I think that from the age of maybe 17 or 16 or 17 until I actually found Zen practice, which was something around 25 or 26 or so, I was just constantly looking and looking and looking for some consistent, truthful, non-bullshit talking method. And I had this vague sense that this has to have some kind of spiritual dimension, but I was very deeply disappointed with religion in a way that I then had seen around me. I really tried to give a chance to all these established strong religions here in Finland. I mean, I'm from Finland. Basically Christianity, all its different branches and all that, but I just couldn't. I found the kind of logical problems too heavy with that, with the doctrine, and to believe in something that I couldn't just believe in, basically. So I had really tried out everything, and I knew that I need some method to practice my mind, and I didn't know how to do that, and I didn't know if that existed, but I knew that that this is what I really need. And I mean, being a classical musician, having been training classical music since I was a child, I knew also it was a common idea for me, kind of known idea, something that I was close to, that you understand that you have to practice in order to be able to experience or do something. Like in music, you have to practice this skill of playing. And it's not only the playing, the kind of the actual physical thing you are practicing, but you also, at the same time, when you are practicing music and playing, you are a kid and you are doing your little like homework, you are also practicing your hearing, your understanding of music, your relationship with music, your emotional life with music. All of that is practice. So I was familiar with this idea that actually you can practice something that is really important and essential. And I had this, I don't know where it came from, but it just was in me, this kind of intuition that with the most deepest core questions and things there are in life. And for me, they were basically that, who am I and what is this all about? And basically, what is truth, that kind of things. That you have to be able to practice these things, to get close to them and understand them somehow in a deeper way by some kind of method and practice. But I didn't believe that this method existed. I just kind of looked for it because I had to look. And then when I kind of suddenly, accidentally, in the end, stumbled into the Zen meditation, then I quite soon kind of realized, okay, this is the method that I have been looking for a very long time. And it was a very funny time. I mean, I had been trying all of these kind of like a kind of established big things, all sorts of Christian meditations and whatever, who have like, or which have like tens of thousands of people or millions of people who are practicing this. And I had been disappointed. And in the end, I remember that I wrote in my diary that, okay, this is something I'm looking for. I don't care if there is just like 50 people who kind of do the same or actually like think like this. I don't care a shit if I really, really honestly can myself stand kind of in front of that and say that, okay, I'm completely honest with myself. I'm not kind of bullshitting myself at all. I am not kind of making any shortcut ways to kind of explain some things to myself that are maybe not so nice or just I cannot just believe in. If I can be completely frank and like open and accept it, then I don't care if there is only like 50 people. And then after 2 months, when I found myself in the introduction meditation course in Zen Buddhism, I learned in that time in Helsinki Zen Center, the place where I went, there were 50 members. So it was a very small kind of school then. And then I became a member of Helsinki Zen Center, which was a part of Zen Buddhistiska Samfundet, in which, and Zen Buddhistiska Samfundet has a retreat center. That was the place where we met in Sweden. So that's our connection. So this was a very long story.
Yeah. Another memory that came to me was now when you spoke was also at Sengården, where I think you said that you had a dream, and in that dream you were holding your pillow and telling people or basically walking out to war. And it was right. It was right before Sesshin, which is like
I have no memory of this, but
no.
that's why I cannot say it's anything. But okay, I believe you.
Yeah, no, I mean it's hard to remember all the dreams you have. So I just remember that picture of walking out into war almost. I don't know, because the sesshin is a pretty heavy duty kind of practice. I mean, you said you are into practices and wanted to find and Zen is practice heavy. I guess you could say. And Sesshin, which is a Zen retreat for 4 to 7 days usually, is a really practice heavy time. Would you mind telling us what it is? What do you do on a Sesshin?
Yeah. Yes, Sesshin is an intense practice time, intense retreat. I mean, we can have all sorts of retreats in life, and I think one of the most effective retreat would be just to live our normal life, but completely shut off the cell phone, for instance. Of course, then you wouldn't be able to live your normal life because you are dependent on that. But this is just to kind of illustrate that the word retreat can mean basically anything. But the Zen retreat is a time that is dedicated solely, only, like single-mindedly to the training of Zen meditation. And we do this in that, having that thought and also experience. The aim is not the practice in itself. It's not that you just practice because then you can practice more. But the aim is that when you do this very intense practice and we have like a 4-day sessions or 7-day sessions, or now in Finland I actually have 5-day sessions also. We are just going to have a 5-day session in 2 weeks. Yeah. The aim is to go to do something very intensely and then kind of, as we say, go deep in your practice and get some benefit from that. And then when you come out of that retreat, then you put into your action in your daily life that what you have got. It's a little bit, I mean, I have heard this comparison that someone has compared the Zen retreat Sesshin to this kind of like high altitude training that sportsmen do. Like they
Yeah.
go to those mountains and do the heavy training in order to actually become better in their skill. And then when they come back to the easier conditions, then they are stronger and more able. So I think this is the idea. So the idea is not that the Zen retreat doesn't give an ideal way of Zen life in itself, because I think the ideal Zen life is our life. It is to live our life and being in relationships with people and to encounter all these things that we encounter in life. It's just your life. But the practice period in retreat, it's kind of special time. And that's why it's intense. Kind of, you really try to get everything out of that, so then you can go back to your normal life.
And it's called Sesshin. It means, is it like unifying the mind, or what is it?
Something like that. This, I mean, it's a combination of two words in Japanese, and Japanese as and Chinese, which are both the kind of major languages in Zen or Chan, as they say in China. They both have various meanings for words. So, but one explanation, one translation would be that Sesshin would be like unifying the mind, or mind unified, or something like that. Yeah.
And there's also, I'm just thinking back now what you said, you were searching for answers in a way. And this might also be something, I don't know why I read or where I've heard this about you, but maybe you wrote it somewhere, that you've been going to these sessions, you've been unifying the mind, and you've been doing a lot of Zen meditation for many years. And I think, as I remember at least, you described it as you had this something in your heart that at a certain point fell away, I think, or
There was pain in my heart, and it completely melted away. Yeah. Pain or gravity or kind of heavy feeling. Yeah. And in a way, it kind of, I don't know, maybe the pain had always been there. I became aware of it when I started to do my kind of more intense practice. Then suddenly I realized, I'm in a constant pain. I have this constant pain. And then once, I noticed it, then it was always there. And then it was there for many years. And then it just one day went away. Poof.
and did anything change for you after that, or I mean, that is a change in and of itself, of course, but I was just curious how, if that affected you in any way.
Because it was this incredibly like release, of course. Yeah. And I mean, it's such a long time that I don't remember it anymore very freshly. But I mean, it's more than 10 years now when it happened. But um, it was a major step for me. step into being that, in the way of being in one's completely normal life and normal existence that I couldn't have imagined before, simply because it was so much more kind of coherent, united, one wholeness, like this whole being, and also so much less discomfort and stress. Yeah. I mean, I think
And
we are I think most of us are extremely kind of well trained in being in stress, being in discomfort. Most of us are so well trained in these straining inner conditions like stress, mental pain, or dissatisfaction or discomfort, that they don't even notice it. They just take it as a normal way of life. I think this is the most common thing, at least in our modern world. I don't know if it has been a little bit easier for before time, like in older times when people simply lived so much simpler life. Of course, then they had different kind of problems, so and more kind of gross suffering, like horrible illnesses and no cures and all that stuff. Yeah, but at least I was completely used to suffer in kind of basically feel a little bit ill, a little bit stressed, a little bit dissatisfied all the time. So that was the basic feeling. Of course, that is now I see that, of course, that is the kind of the condition that kind of what Buddhism calls samsaric condition. And the more you are kind of liberated out, I mean, the whole point of Buddhism, the whole point of Zen practice is to actually release that, to find a way of being a human being and live this life that is ideally completely out of suffering. You are completely free, completely relaxed, completely grounded, completely out of basically problems in the midst of the problematic and complicated surroundings of your life. So in that way, this is a very traditional kind of story. What happens if you really, when you are practicing Buddhism, I mean, yeah.
so that happened to you after, so you got kind of your practice paid off in a way.
Yeah, yeah. But it's kind of paid off in that way that you have to invest. At least I had to invest, really. I mean, and I don't know anyone who, I mean, this is not a practice that you gain something. All the liberation and relief comes from losing. You are losing. You are just losing. You are losing your ideas of what you are. You are losing your problems. Actually, it's nice to say it like this. You are losing your problems, and that is terrifying. That is so terrifying. Usually we don't want to lose our problems, because if we lose our problems, then we lose our good things also, or what we think is good. And we use the whole concept of what we are. And that's so bloody scaring for most of us. And to do that, you really have to relax and ground your body to the, for instance, to the meditation, so that you are in that kind of state that you simply, you understand that you are not going to collapse even when you are letting go of your problems. It sounds so crazy, but this is how our minds work. Yeah. To be honest, then I have to say also that it's like, yes, things happen in this practice, and openings, spiritual openings, and come. They do come. They may come if you are lucky to practice with skillful teachers who can guide you in the direction that actually leads you to something. And I think that is really important. I must say that I feel it. I think like proper guidance is really, really important in spiritual way, when you are living a spiritual life, kind of trying to go some path. But then also mind's tendency to create problems is quite deep. So also, it wasn't like it wasn't like that okay, then the pain went away and then that's it. Yeah, it went away and didn't ever come back, and maybe I was out of suffering for 3 years or something. But then life took its own, and I kind of stagnated a little bit, and then I started to get new sufferings, and then I've been working with them. So this is also something that makes you very humble, that you really understand during this training that it's like it's this path of transformation or spiritual path is it continues, and if you identify with this idea that now you have some understanding, or now you have some relief, or now you...
Okay, so yes, I was curious about that because there's one thing that we can see then maybe that Zen practice in can help us with fundamental or existential or those kinds of questions and healing and in a way, and yet they can you're never free of them. And I also wonder, in what way do you see or have you used other kinds of practices, or even psychotherapy to supplement Zen practice, or do you see Zen as being an all-in-one? How has it been for you?
I think the question is a little bit kind of misformulated, as if there would be anything like that would kind of give any solution. Let's say I get some inflammation, I need antibiotics. Then I go to the doctor and get the antibiotics. And I go there, and I don't think if I'm a Zen practitioner or not, basically. Okay, there might be some spiritual practitioners in these days who actually think that taking antibiotics is not good, but I'm not one of them. I just try to tell you something that, or if you're a Zen practitioner and you want to go to somewhere that it's 300 kilometers away, you take a car or train. You don't try to meditate your way out there. That's so in a way, there is nothing in this life that would kind of do your life for you. You have to live your life using all of the ways and means that are offered in that time and place. Even if you decide not to use something, you have to kind of take your stance into that. But so what is it actually that you really want to ask me? I'm kind of curious, because this question sometimes comes up, and I have been thinking of it, and I think you might ask different things behind there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a good, good counter question. I have to think about it. Well, I think I've seen. I think, well, I think my experience is that some people seem to have even maybe have had that experience that I only need to do my my practice more, and if I feel bad or if there's I need antibiotics, like you said, I need to practice harder. I'm not particularly Zen, but in spiritual practice, spiritual groups, and I think there's even I think there are examples,
Now I
perhaps.
think I kind of understand what you think. Yeah. Well, I think there are basically two kind of approach that I would call genuine and true kind of based on kind of something that is really existing, and then the much more common that is actually kind of just some kind of what I think is misguided, wistful thinking. And something that is I call that is kind of genuine. If you genuinely have this idea that the practice is going to solve all my questions, then it actually means that you have yourself scaled your questions so that the only thing you really care about in your life is your spiritual practice. You don't care at all about if you have like a love relationship or family issues. You don't care at all about your work. You don't care at all if you are going to sleep under the bridge or in the woods or in the rain or in the sleet and snow. You just don't care, because the only thing you really, really care truly is, let's say, who am I? What is this life about? And we have these practitioners. I mean, Buddha himself, historical Buddha, was clearly one of these people. He simply had this one question, and for him, he formulated it in this way: why do people suffer? And that was really the only thing he cared for. There are some other like wonderful practitioners. I remember there was this contemporary Korean nun who died like 2000 and something. Great practitioner who basically left the monastery because she didn't find it like serious enough. And she basically went to the mountains and lived there for 10 or 15 years in Korea. And I mean, it is snowing in Korea. And she was basically living like in a deck, like a hole on the ground, and living there and just eating whatever people gave her or something like that, and just practicing and practicing and practicing. And I would say that 99.9% of these people who actually think that practice should solve their all problems, they are not this category. Because actually, when they are saying that practice should solve their problems, what they are really actually meaning is that I have this dream and idea that I have made up in my mind, that this whatever spiritual practice I have should give me this and that good. And I am the one who knows what is the best of me. I am the one who knows that I should get this promotion, or it was unfair that someone did this to me. I should give my rights like fixed. Or if I am so noble that I am able to go beyond that, then I shouldn't be bothered by any like life's problems. I should somehow enter to this plane of pure spirituality where everything is actually under my control and everything is going well and smooth, and I just don't have any problems. And if I don't get into that, then I just do my practice more and more and more. So I really think that this is, I mean, if you have any other issues than your spiritual issues, then you have to, I mean, yes, you can solve these issues by spiritual practice, but it actually means that you have to genuinely see them in a deeper way. Let's say you have some whatever problem, whatever traumatic stuff. I mean, these things can actually heal through a spiritual practice, but I think that they heal kind of when you don't expect them to heal. So if you are going to meditation and all the time you have this idea that this meditation should help me to become better in this and that, and to be more in balance with this and that, whatever interrelational stuff I have, it won't really work. So yeah. And what comes to Zen, I mean, I personally, yes, I went to therapy. That was actually a couple of years after that experience I described now. And it was good, yes. It was definitely good. And I think the therapist was, he also used to do Buddhist practice. So we kind of shared a lot of kind of, we had a kind of common understanding. If I told him about what I think of mind or retreat experiences, he could somehow relate into that in a better way than a person who wouldn't have known anything about Buddhism. And it definitely helped me to deal with lots of stuff that this release of mind has actually exposed me to also. But I mean, there are different times for different things. I mean, right now I am in the phase that I am not interested in that kind of stuff, and now I am really interested in just doing this practice and going deeper with this. So
you're into, because you meditated now for you meditated a lot for over 20 years now, and you say you're really interested in going deep now. So
yeah, but this is how it is. It's like
what does that mean for you when you say?
well, it means that, of course, it's just saying what I say. I mean, I have to use some words. Let's say that I'm very, very motivated in actually deepening my understanding, and at this point where I am now, I am mostly interested in being able to live my completely normal life, and especially all these encounters with other people from that kind of released point of experience. Yes, that's kind of my interest now.
Yeah, because you are. I mean, like you said, you said that working with a teacher is something that at least have been very helpful for yourself, because as I understand it, you worked with teachers, and now you are one. And
Yes, and I'm a junior teacher. I mean, I'm in the beginning of my teaching experience, beginning of my. I have taken my first steps in this path of a teacher, and it's also a different kind of path. And it's in itself, it's of course extremely inspiring to see people in a very close way. In our tradition, the way of training, as you know, is that if you want to train with a teacher, you have the opportunity to go kind of train like two and two, like you just meet the teacher, the student and teacher are meeting each other in that practice context, and then you bring up your understanding of your practice or your problems with your practice, or just your genuine state of being, and then this encounter is at its best. It's kind of chemical reaction happening there, something that comes up, something new, some understanding comes up in the student if that encountering is very genuine and kind of open. And now, of course, I'm seeing that same process from the point of view of a teacher. And then when you are in that point of view, then it is a different point of view, yes, but you still understand that you are a student, because like a teacher and student, in a different way, you are a student. You are learning from your students then, because teacher and student, they, as we say in Buddhism, they are dependent in each other. They are rise dependently. Without the teacher, there is no student. Without the student, there is no teacher. So I'm only teacher because there are students. Yeah. So I'm completely, profoundly connected with both. Yeah.
yeah, no, I was just saying that in Zen there's this concept, or the word dokusan, where you meet the teacher one on one. So during like a session that we were speaking about before, you do it on a daily basis, several times a day, and when it's not a session, you can do that too. So that's the uh, that's the only time you is that the only time you work with your teacher during Dokusan, or do you do it in other ways?
Well, I
That's like
I
a
mean the
short
formal.
meeting, a
Yeah,
couple of.
and these encounters that I was talking about, I was referring mostly to Dokusan meetings. I mean, they are the formal practice and teaching meetings, kind of the formal time. But of course, I mean, the teacher and student relationship And with a relationship, I don't mean necessarily a personal relationship, but the relation, that there is this situation that someone is acting as a teacher because the person is that in that situation, and the other person is acting as a student because and they are benefiting each other. The student needs what the teacher can give, and the teacher does it because it's her, that's what she wants to do. Of course, that situation happens all the time. I mean, when we drink tea in the Sendo after meditation and just chat, I'm still the teacher there. I mean, I might not teach anything, but the situation is still there. And I think of how much I have learned from my own teachers in this informal way, just observing how they are, just observing how they are, just observing how they react, just observing how they are day after day after day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Then you really learn something about them. And then when there are those things that actually can benefit you, then you really are able to take those in a very deep way, in a much deeper way that you could ever do just by if someone said to you about something. It's kind of different kind of learning, much deeper way. So that teacher and student thing, I think it goes beyond these formal teaching times. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when, which I also think is a way of just having almost what you're not referring to, but what I'm thinking when I hear you is almost having role models as well. Uh, I don't know, spiritual role models, but I remember seeing Sante Roshi, one of your teachers. I remember seeing him for the first time in Stockholm. I went to some, I don't know what it was, like an introduction Zen thing, and I just remember him walking in the room and sitting down and drinking some water, and something in me realized something. I couldn't explain it, but that picture has just stayed with me in all of the years, and something in me just knew, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And I get almost goosebumps now talking about it, but it was just so almost like you reading The Cloud of Unknowing. Something in your body mind just reacts and knows something that your mind maybe not quite is not quite aware of. And that is just, even though I haven't have this formal teacher relationship like you have had or worked as much, it has been of help for me. And when I've had spiritual openings, shall we say, I have oftentimes seen him there, almost like in Star Wars, when Luke sees his teachers, that he has come up for me many times in many occasions. I'm just wondering how has your experience been with that?
I, I think that's a one essential and basically good part, like good thing around this teacher-student relationship. I mean, it's basically good, this that you actually, it's not only about that the teacher can be a role model, but it's also that this teacher is kind of manifesting, embodying some kind of almost like an archetypical uh, picture of a spiritual teacher, a spiritual guide. And it resonates in us so deeply because archetypes are kind of things that are in us. So then when you recognize that archetypical spiritual teacher in some living person, it's much more powerful because it's like a tangible physical being. And then that in itself has the potential to really release something good in you, your own spiritual potential. So whatever the student sees in the teacher, it's of course, his or her own potential. And that potential might not come out in any other way. And that's why the genuine teacher is so important, because a genuine teacher is able, just by being there, to kind of release some of that student's own potential out. That's the kind of the sane and good part of that. And all the things can go kind of pervert, twist. So the perversion, that the danger of perversion that is there is, of course, that you don't understand. I mean, you don't have to understand it conceptually, but somehow it's enough that you kind of just start with this and then you go forward. But if you start to think, first of all, you start to idealize the teacher and basically just projecting all of your own wisdom into the teacher. And then it will be just a matter of time when the teacher will disappoint you horribly by acting out differently from what you wish. And the teacher doesn't have to do anything horrible. We do have these horrible teachers who actually have done really bad things. I mean, we know that in the spiritual world, there are those people that we are not talking about them now. We are not talking about like real, genuine teachers. You can get completely kind of like leave the whole kind of training just because you cannot take the fact that the teacher is actually not you cannot project those things eternally to the teacher.
I remember Santa saying, just as a side note to that, he spoke about someone being angry with him because he had been smoking a cigar at some point, and a woman had said to him, "But you have Inca."
Inca, yeah, and Inca is the certificate that you are a completely independent teacher. Yeah, that's kind of the highest rank of a teacher that there is. Yes,
and he smoked cigars, and that didn't fit her image of the perfect teacher.
Yes, exactly. Also, I remember somehow this has maybe happened more with Sante than my other teacher, actually primary teacher, Kanya Roshi. But with Sante Roshi, I remember also that he told once that there was someone who had, I think, sent him email asking that this person was going to buy a new car and asking that what color the car should be. I mean, this is an example that it has absolutely nothing to do with the Zen teacher and Zen student. I mean, the student really has to find out himself or herself what is the color of the car. But this was an example of that you really project basically all your agency to the teacher. And then what happens? You become completely dependent and you feel miserable because you actually, instead of embodying your own wisdom, you just project it out to the teacher. So, and sometimes this can be quite delicate. Sometimes they are not. I mean, of course, these are extreme. What I was now telling, I like the color of the car. It's like very extreme. But then also you have a chance to learn. I mean, if you, and that's also one thing, that a wonderful thing that comes out of a personal relationship with a teacher. If you're a student and you trust the teacher and you find the teacher sufficiently trustworthy, and there is a commitment, mutual commitment, then there is space to go through all of these phases and actually really learn something. Really learn how to embody your own wisdom, how to really be that. And that's also, actually, now it comes back. It's so good that we came here, because I wanted to a little bit come back to this question that stopped my computer to function last time. No, but this is about if spiritual practice is kind of going to solve it all. I mean, I was saying that one point is that you have to scale your questions, that you cannot simply, like a spiritual practice is not some machinery that is going to give your ego everything you want, basically. It's completely the other way. But it's also true that it is possible, actually, it is possible to learn to live like a decent life and to be a decent person and be happy and kind of suffer less and less. And it is possible to do this through your spiritual practice. And in that way, it is possible to solve your problems with the spiritual practice. But I don't think, usually the answer is not that you just go deeper in your practice, basically that you shut down and just do your meditation. But it's rather that you take whatever wisdom you have got from your practice, you take it with you and bring it to that place where the problem is. Because usually our problems, they arise in contacts, in the times we are meeting someone, or some idea, or some circumstance, or some place. We are finding ourselves in a place we don't like. So then you actually really have to work your way out of that. And then you bring everything you have ever got from your practice to that situation there. That is the way, really, to, if you want to have that your spiritual practice is going to solve it all. It's not that you run away from your problems and go to the meditation retreat. I mean, sometimes it's very good to go deeper in your practice to get some basic understanding, basic solidity, basic openness, basic clarity. You really need this, but you cannot run away your stuff. Then you have to take that. If you want to solve your problems through your spiritual practice, then you really have to take your spiritual practice to your everyday life.
Okay. I was also thinking both as you being a musician, and there's this being in flow, or in which there's also similarities, I think, with being with the flow of life and being just and well, that's a long-winded way of asking how. And has anything surprised you about how you are as a teacher?
That's an interesting question. Thank you.
When you are in flow, when you are being the teacher.
I have mostly been surprised about this basically, I mean, when you're a teacher, at least this happened with me, is that I feel myself just so humbled, so humbled by the people who are practicing with me. And I think it's an incredible privilege to be able to be there, to sit there, to face them, to give whatever I can to help them, to guide them, and to have this, to see the deepening of the practice with the individuals and also within the community. I mean, our community is quite, in a way, it's quite young, because when I started, I'm living in the city of Tampere, the second biggest city, or not the second biggest city, but the second biggest kind of city area in Finland. I mean, the capital is like a cluster of 3 cities. So that's, and basically, almost all of our practitioners have studied since I became a teacher here. So we are a young community, and just to see how things kind of settle down and form and formulate, and people practice, and seeing their sincerity, it's incredibly humbling, and I feel incredibly grateful to be able to be there.
So that has surprised you, being to just see how people are affected by it. And yeah, I remember oftentimes, or a couple of times during sessions, where I think both Sante Roshi and Kanya Roshi has expressed something like that. I mean, I don't know how it is, but to me it seems like a chore mostly to to be doing that so many hours every day, and everyone just running in and there and speaking to them. But they often said something similar to what you say, that they are, or I felt that they also felt humbled by it, and I can't imagine how that is, but it's interesting to hear you say it.
Yeah, it is true that, like, after a sesshin incense practice as a teacher, like, I am really tired after those practice times. And this I couldn't have ever imagined when I started. When I started, I thought that these teachers, they seem to just float there kind of easily and effortlessly. And I thought that I am the only one who is tired. I'm the only one, or maybe the next person to me who is also a beginner. We have pain in our legs. We are tired. We are struggling. But the teachers, they are not struggling. But then when I was giving my first session as a teacher, and yes, I might float there, but I mean, that floating is, of course, I mean, I was giving all I had, all my kind of, yeah, I mean, yeah. So I was completely tired after it ended. And then I was speaking with a colleague of mine, also a young teacher, and he said that, yeah, you cannot even kind of believe it before you experience it, how tired you can be after giving a session. So it's also part of that.
Yeah, and you can, at least thinking about it, you have to be so present with every person coming in, and there's just another one and another one and another one. Um, so yeah, it's okay. We're at the 1 hour mark now. Just curious, is there, yeah, is there something more on your mind, heart mind?
Yeah, heart mind is a fine Buddhist concept, by the way. It's like the Buddhist way of understanding mind. It's like a heart mind. No, I'm very fine.
Yeah,
And you?
yeah, yeah. I am, I am fine. I enjoyed speaking to you again. It's nice seeing you again after. I mean, I thought I was that you were younger than me. I didn't know why. I don't know why I thought that, but so I was surprised to hear that you were older. I thought you when I met you in Zen Garden, I thought you were younger than I was,
Mm.
or maybe some. Yeah, we're almost the same age, so it's not big. 40, but yeah, it's just lovely to see people over the years. For me too, to see you, seeing you in St. Gordon all those years ago, and seeing you at some Sesshin's, and now seeing you as a teacher. It's it's humbling for me too. So very much enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Okay, so we'll end it here, and until next time.
Yes.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.